Hey guys, I want you to learn a little bit about parallelism this week, and this is sort of our editing and grammar topic for the week. Most of the examples that I talk about in this video come straight from The Little Seagull from pages 345 through 347. So if you want to read more on it, if you want to look at additional examples, this part in the textbook, and that's our little spiral bound handbook, that part is going to be probably one of the most helpful parts for you. What is parallelism? Parallelism is essentially getting a parallel structure. So if you think of the word parallel, you've probably heard it mostly like in math class when you're talking about graphing lines on one of those XY axis graphs, and a line that goes like this might have another line next to it that goes like this, and they're both going at the exact same degree, and they're parallel, so they're running together. You can think about parallel lines on the road, the two lines in the middle of the road to divide where the traffic goes in opposite directions. Those lines are parallel. There's two of them. They run side by side. So that's essentially, if you can imagine taking that concept and bringing it over to English, that's essentially what we're talking about here. With parallelism, we want to make sure that our sentences, especially our complex sentences or our compound complex sentences, we want to make sure that they have a parallel structure so that the language is the same for each element, or when we have related words, they're in the same grammatical form. Parallelism shows the connections between ideas. Often it'll show the connection between a subject and multiple verbs. It could show the connection between the verb and multiple objects. It could even show the connection between multiple subjects and the verb. There's even more complex parallelism concepts than that, but today we're really kind of focusing on the basics here. When your writing is parallel, it's rhythmic, it flows, it's easy to read. So if you ever feel like your writing is choppy, or if you ever feel like your writing sounds awkward or funky, or if I ever give you a comment, I'm like, well, this sounds awkward here, parallelism might be the way to solve that problem. If you get feedback on papers and you see a lot of red ink, so to speak, and it's not that you have sentences that run on, it's not that you have fragment sentences, it's not punctuation, it might be parallelism. Some classic examples of phrases that have a parallel structure are listed here. Been there, done that. Eat, drink, and be merry. For better or for worse. Out of sight, out of mind. So in each of these we have at least two, and one of them we have three elements, and they're all in the same format. So that's kind of the concept that we're looking at here. One of the ways that you'll find parallelism can be factored into your writing is if you're writing a series or if you're writing a list. So here is an incorrect sentence. It says, after 50 years of running, biking, swimming, and tennis, Aunt Dorothy was unhappy to learn she needed knee surgery. So while there's nothing necessarily wrong with this sentence, its structures are not parallel. So when your reader gets to tennis, their brain, as our brains do, is looking for a pattern, that ing, 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 and then it doesn't get that pattern. So the brain's like, well, that sounds weird. So to fix that, we can just change tennis to a verb rather than a noun. After 50 years of running, biking, swimming, and playing tennis, Aunt Dorothy was unhappy to learn she needed knee surgery. So even though your reader understands that you play tennis, having that parallel structure, playing tennis, helps your brain or your reader's brain to hear that flow, read that sentence rhythmically, and to not have to pause and question, did I read that right, when they're reading your writing. Parallelism also is important with paired ideas. So I think that this is probably the #1 instance that I correct in most students at this writing level. And again, it's for an easy connection between ideas and for a smooth flow of language. So, for example, the incorrect sentence is, General Electric paid millions of dollars to dredge the river and for removing carcinogens from backyards. Again, there's not really anything necessarily confusing about that, but it can be improved. It can enhance your writing. Your writing sounds smoother if you change for removing to remove, because we noticed that our verb was that infinite, I think, infinite. I don't think I'm saying that word right, but I cannot think of the right word. But we have this to verb, right? To dredge. Here we would want to say to remove. General Electric paid millions of dollars to dredge the river and to remove carcinogens from backyards. So that sounds much more smoother. And again, it's just because my verb form, my grammatical verb form, matches with both of those elements, right? Who paid millions of dollars? General Electric. What did they pay millions of dollars to do? To dredge the river. What else did they pay millions of dollars to do? To remove carcinogens from backyards. So we see that how the elements are connected. We see where General Electric has been doing 2 of these things, and both should be written in the same format just for our readers' sake. Parallelism on presentation slides. So certainly on the slide itself, you want to have parallel structure with your language, but even between slides, like in the headers of your slides, you want to have parallel language so that your reader, it's for clear communication, so your reader can follow along as best as possible. The incorrect presentation list here would say, during the 1946 presidential race, Truman conducted a whistle-stop campaign, made hundreds of speeches, spoke energetically, voters had personal connections with him. So the problem with this, or the thing that trips up our reader, is again that pattern recognition. Our brain is saying past tense verb, past tense verb, past tense verb, noun. That doesn't follow the pattern. Our brain says, hey, there's something weird here. So we can easily correct that just by making sure that we have that same verb tense throughout our presentation list. Conducted a whistle-stop campaign, made hundreds of speeches, spoke energetically, and connected personally with voters. So past tense verb, past tense verb, past tense verb, and past tense verb. We have that, again, parallel structure. I think I have one more for you. Maybe this was the last one. I guess so. Okay, well, that is parallelism. If you have questions, let me know. Definitely check out your little seagull. It's easy to identify when you take it out of your own writing. So when you look at specific examples away from your writing, it's really easy to identify. The places to look for parallelism and to check for parallelism. If you're writing a list, check for parallelism there. This unit, we don't have a formal essay, so we don't have a thesis statement. However, if you're writing a thesis and you're listing out multiple topics in your thesis, you want to make sure that they have a parallel structure, because if any sentence in your paper is the best sentence it can be, it should be your thesis statement. If you have a complex sentence and it has multiple elements that relate to the same subject, multiple subjects that relate to the same verb, check those and make sure that they have a parallel structure as well. Even parallelism can come just, I think, a little bit in formatting. If you have numbers and you write out in a word form every one of your numbers in a list, but then you insert maybe the numerical 9, then that's going to look funny compared to all the other words. So sometimes parallelism is about consistency, and I think that that's important as well, because again, think about your reader. Their brain is going to look for patterns, and when they don't find that adherence to the pattern, they feel tripped up, and they feel like your writing is less effective than it could be. So if you have questions about any of this, just let me know. Otherwise, your quiz this week relates directly to this content. And of course, if you need to, you can certainly use your little Seagull book, pages 345 through 347, as you take that quiz.